Dun, 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 dun. I'm Vengeance. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the newly released McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, the Batman action figures. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at, of course, the Batman himself, Catwoman, the Riddler, and surprisingly the Penguin, who I believe is supposed to be a part of the second wave. Of course, the Riddler, Catwoman, and Batman are all a part of the first wave, so not entirely sure as to what's going on here with the Penguin. They've all just literally dropped here in the UK, and I'm super happy, as usually we have to wait so long for McFarlane action figure releases, but all I really need to pick up now is the Bat Cycle, and I think I'll be pretty much done with this wave. Now, before we delve in and take a look at the figures themselves, of course, each and every one of them comes with the standard McFarlane DC Multiverse trading card. One thing to note is that unlike their Justice League figures, all of the pictures that we're seeing here are in fact actual images of the figures. Of course, with the Justice League characters, they were actual promo shots of the actors from the movie, so not entirely sure as to why they've decided to spice things up, but you can see a really cool image there of Batman. Obviously, this is almost recreation from what we've seen in the trailer, and as we flip here to the back, it does indeed give you a slight brief bio on Batman, of course, based on this upcoming The Batman movie. We also do get one here for Catwoman, actually looking really cool, almost a little cooler here when in comparison to what we actually got with the figure, but nevertheless, you can see once again, as we flip here to the back of the card, it gives you a brief bio, and then we turn to both the Riddler and the Penguin. Now, these ones here are a little mysterious, so you can see with the Riddler, we do in fact actually get an image of him holding the tape, something that we have seen him actually utilize within the trailer, but the figure himself comes with this really strange, almost shovel, so I'm not entirely sure as to what's going on there. Personally, I would have much rather the tape, but no doubt this will be a variant that will come out sometime after the movie hits the silver screen. Once again, as we flip here to the back, we get a really nice brief bio there on the Riddler, and the same can also be said here with the Penguin. It does indeed actually showcase him with the umbrella, of which sadly doesn't in fact actually come included with the figure, despite him coming with two pairs of interchangeable hands, which essentially would give you the option for the Penguin to actually hold an umbrella. And then once more, as we just flip here to the back, you can see here a really nice brief bio. So without further ado, let's delve straight in. Honestly, I've been a huge fan of these DC Multiverse figures by McFarlane so far, in particular with their live action movie figures, and all of these, in particular the Batman, are absolutely smashing. Now you can see here we have our first proper Robert Pattinson Batman figure, and I've got to be honest to say this is fantastic. In terms of an actual design, I am loving what we're seeing here. I really cannot wait to finally see this movie. You can see that in regard to the face sculpt, I actually think it's one of their best yet. You can undeniably, at least in my opinion, tell that this is supposed to be Robert Pattinson. I think they've done a fantastic job there with the sculpt work where the jaw is concerned, and I really do like the stitching detailing that we've got going on here for the cowl. I know there are some out there who aren't a huge fan of this particular design, but personally I think it's really nicely done. And of course, this is a new Batman. This is Batman only 2 years into his almost crime-fighting career, so really intrigued to see as to what kind of characterization Pattinson is going to give the Bat in the upcoming movie. But you can see really nice sculpt work. I actually really like how they've kind of given him this offset with the eyes. Definitely gives you this almost moody vibe of Batman. I think it's really nicely done. You can see here for the Bat emblem on the suit. This looks awesome. I know there are some rumors out there actually circulating that this is indeed detachable in the movie, so really looking forward to seeing as to how that turns out. But you can see the armor here for the shoulders as well as for the forearms look great. Not entirely sure as to what these gauntlet pieces are. I imagine there'll be some sort of weapon utilized in the film, but the utility belt looks great. You can see here for this side, we do in fact actually get these spikes, which sadly are quite warped fresh out of the packaging, but nevertheless, I think the sculpt work overall for this Batman has turned out great, and I really do like the paint as well as sculpt work that we've got going on here. Even as we turn our attention to the back, of course, the cape is cast out of that very similar PVC pliable material that we've seen on some of the recent Batman figures, and I think for the most part, once again, the sculpt work looks really nicely done. And in regards to accessories, in addition to the base and of course the trading card, we do in fact actually get the grapple gun. Now you can see this has been completely redesigned for this movie, actually not looking too bad at all. The details are slightly lost due to there being no paint on this, but I actually think that looks really cool. It does in fact actually peg into the palm of Batman, and when you don't actually have it pegged in, it does make the hand look slightly peculiar, but I do know there is an interchangeable hand sculpt that is coming out with the Bat Cycle. Now in regards to articulation, surprisingly very nicely done, so the head can in fact actually look up to a fantastic degree, so you can definitely recreate that scene that we do in fact actually get on the trading card. The head can also look down, which once again creates an incredible incredibly moody vibe here for this Batman. We can get the head tilting side to side, rotating left to right. We do get butterfly joints here at the shoulders, which of course can hinge back and forth. The arms can in fact actually rotate the full 360. Of course, the cape will slightly restrict that, but they can go out to the side. Rotation here at the bicep, as well as a double joint here at the elbow. The wrists can rotate the full 360, as well as hinge up and down. The torso articulation sadly is slightly limited, so we don't really get the greatest ab crunch, which is a slight shame, but it can in fact actually crunch backwards more than it can forwards. Of course, this can rock side to side, rotate left to right, and here for the legs, this can kick forwards, I would say roughly to 90, as well as back to that far, out to the side. Rotation here at the thigh, as well as a double joint here at the knee, albeit incredibly stiff. And then of course finally we do in fact get a pivot here at the foot, which can go forwards and backwards, rock side to side, and we do of course get a toe bend. And one thing that I actually think is a marked improvement when in comparison to some of the earlier DC Multiverse figures is that they've actually been able to conceal the ankle joint really nicely. So you can see how this portion of the leg does in fact almost hide that ball joint, which I think is a really nice touch. So overall, definitely a fantastic figure, in my opinion, the highlight out of this entire first wave. Now, in regards to the grapple gun, for those of you who perhaps didn't wish to store it in Batman's hand, you can in fact actually peg it here into the utility belt. Now, I'm not entirely sure whether or not this is what it was intended for, but you can see how we've got this tiny little sling here that essentially you just pop this tab through, and there you've got the grapnel gun stored there on Batman's utility belt. So overall, definitely a fantastic looking figure. Then of course we turn our attention to Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman. Now sadly, she's probably the weakest out of this entire lineup, just as essentially the costume design from the movie really doesn't lend itself to a very visually appealing action figure, in my opinion. Of course, it is just mainly cast black with not that much sculpt work going on, and especially where the design of the masthead is concerned, it does look incredibly bland and generic. In my opinion, there is no resemblance to Zoe Kravitz at all here with this eye sculpt, so that isn't the best. But of course, it's quite difficult to convey an actress's likeness just by merely sculpting the eyes. So you can see the sculpt work, however, for the mask is pretty nicely done. We've got these almost cat ears going off to the side, so I think that looks pretty cool, and you've got this really nice wrinkled material effect going on here towards the bottom. And whilst of course the costume is fairly basic in design, I have got to be honest and say it's been sculpted pretty damn nicely. All of the curves that you would expect from a Catwoman are certainly there, and I think it looks really cool. Of course, some areas have been highlighted out of a slightly more glossy black, so you can see here for the next section, as well as some here for the wrists, but we are dealing with a mainly matte black sculpt. But overall, the sculpt definitely does look really decent. She does come with one accessory, that being the whip. Now sadly, she can't really hold it the greatest. The grip on my figure at least is very loose, so that is slightly unfortunate. I do wish in some regards they had essentially just given her either a whip that was fixed in the hand, perhaps an interchangeable hand, or maybe we could have in fact actually just seen the whip fully compressed, much like we are seeing with the unmasked version. Now, in regards to her articulation, the head here sadly can't really look up the greatest, but you can see we've once again got some pretty nice paintwork going on there for the neck. It can look down as well as tilt side to side. Full rotation here at the head. Much like Batman, we do in fact actually get butterfly joints, although due to the nature of the design they are slightly limited. Of course, we can ratchet out to the side here at the shoulder. Rotation at the bicep, surprisingly a double joint here at the elbow. Full wrist rotation. The torso articulation, much like Batman, is slightly limited, albeit a little better than Batman, especially that crunch going forward. She can crunch back side to side, as well as of course rotate left to right. And here for the legs, these can kick forwards that far, back to that far, out to the sides, slight rotation here at the thigh, double joint here at the knee, and then of course finally for the foot, this can pivot forwards and backwards, rock side to side, and we of course do get the signature McFarlane Toys toe tilt. So in all, definitely not a bad articulated figure. I just think that in terms of the actual design, it's just not the most interesting figure, mainly due to how she looks in the movie. Perhaps the unmasked version will look slightly better. We'll have to see how that turns out, of course, when it does eventually hit UK shores. And then we turn to the main villain of the movie, that being the Riddler. Now, I'll be honest and say, when I first saw this character design, I really did think that they majorly missed the mark, although the more I've seen it, I actually think it's really cool, and in my opinion just sets the tone for this movie. It does appear to be incredibly dark, incredibly gritty, and I cannot wait to see this particular incarnation of the Riddler in the film. You can see that in terms of design, literally completely different when in comparison to anything we've seen in the past. I think the face sculpt looks really awesome. Now, he appears to be wearing some sort of mask here at the front, and then this entire clear transparent section towards the back. Not entirely sure as to what we've got going on here, but you can see the green straps look awesome. They have in fact completely painted the ears as well as the hair underneath this transparent piece. And of course, we've got the glasses there, the nose, as well as this breathable section for the actual mouthpiece itself. Such an awesome design. Really does borrow some of the design traits from the Zodiac Killer, especially here where the torso is concerned. We've of course got that Enigma question mark slap bang here along the side, and I think that paintwork looks fantastic. The actual detailing to the arms looks great. You can see there's some of the buttons at the cuffs. I think the sculpt work just overall looks fantastic for this jacket piece. Even there for the hood, you can see a slightly different green used here for this section. And then as we just spin our attention down to the pants or the trousers, these look really, really nicely done. Very nice looking sculpt work here for the boots as well. Now, as mentioned beforehand, for an accessory, he does come with some kind of shovel. Not entirely sure as to the relevance of this yet. Once again, I really would have loved to have seen the tape, especially considering that we do see him actually use that in the trailer. But once again, I'm pretty certain we will see some sort of variant in the future. Now, due to the torso articulation being slightly restricted due to the nature of the design, pretty much everything else is really solid. So here for the head, we can in fact actually get him looking up to a pretty decent degree, and you can see how that mask sculpt is in fact a separate piece, as the nose there is separate and has been fully painted, which is really nice. And as we hinge that up, it does indeed reveal some more detailing here of this mask, so it can look up that far as well as can look down, of course, tilt side to side. Really, really nice there. And of course, look left to right. One thing I may not have mentioned is that you can in fact actually see the eyes fully painted, piercing there through those glasses, which once again just looks super creepy. We do in fact get butterfly joints here for the shoulders, which can hinge back and forth. It does also reveal some more sculpting and detailing. We can hinge out to the sides. Full rotation here at the bicep, double joint there at the elbow, which can bend to a fantastic degree. Full rotation here at the wrist, as well as a hinge joint. Now, as mentioned beforehand, due to this being a firm piece of PVC, it is very, very restricted. You can kind of get it crunching forwards, but I have seen online some reports of breakages, so I'm definitely not going to force it. Of course, it can rotate there left to right. The legs can kick forwards that far, which is pretty decent, as well as can kick back to that far. Hinge out to the sides. We do get a double joint here at the knee, and then finally for the foot, I do believe that we do get a swivel here, hinge joint back and forth, as well as a toe tilt. Now, for those of you wondering as to why I've decided to leave the bases attached, it's just simply because my review station is slightly slanted, and although these figures can stand up perfectly fine on their own, I just do not want them, of course, toppling over when I'm taking a look at another release. But overall, definitely a really, really interesting take here for the Riddler, and considering he's the main villain of the movie, I definitely think that you're going to want to pick this guy up. And then we turn to the fourth figure that is currently available here in the UK, that being the Penguin. Now, surprisingly, not entirely sure as to whether or not this guy is going to get a mass release worldwide anytime soon, but you can see that in terms of design, really, really awesome. Of course, in the movie, he's in fact actually played by Colin Farrell, and you would not think that at all. They are utilizing incredibly heavy prosthetics in the movie, and you can just see how awesome that sculpt work is. I think McFarlane Toys have done a fantastic job, and now out of all of the four figures I have here, this is really the only one where we can judge likeness, and I actually think for the most part they've done a pretty decent job. You can see some really nice scarring here to the cheek. I think their printing technology has actually turned out not too bad at all. You can see there the slick back for the hair. Definitely does resemble the Penguin as we all know and love him. And then when I actually saw this hand gesture, I did think they were going to actually give this Penguin the clipper hands, but no, it does appear as if though it's just the way the fingers have been sculpted. But if that was the intention, I think that's a really nice touch. You can see some pretty decent looking sculpt work going on there, especially here towards the back of the hand. The jacket he's wearing is almost very slimy looking. I think it looks great. You can see the purple tie as well as shirt. This looks really cool. Much like the Riddler, the torso articulation is incredibly hindered due to this almost fat suit that we've got going on, so you're not really going to get that much range of motion out of him. But considering he's a slightly larger guy, I doubt you'd want to be getting him into some super dynamic poses. Even as we take a look here towards the back, you can see the sculpt work looks awesome, and the same can also be said here for the trousers and of course the feet. Now, what articulation he does have isn't too bad, so the head can in fact actually look up that far, can look down, tilt side to side, rotate left to right, although I would be slightly cautious of the paint. Of course, you don't want to chip any here on the side of the cheeks by rubbing it accidentally on the shirt. We do get butterfly joints here at the shoulders, full rotation, hinge joint out to the side, full rotation here at the bicep, as well as a single joint here at the elbow, which can bend roughly to 90. Of course, we do get full rotation here at the wrist. I do believe there is some sort of ab crunch in there, but much like Riddler, I really don't want to force it and potentially break it, but we can get this rotating left to right. The legs can kick forwards that far. not much out to the side, and we do only get a single joint here at the knee, which is incredibly stiff. So once again, I'm not going to force it, but you can see that that joint is definitely there. And finally for the foot, this can pivot forwards and backwards as well as rock side to side, and we do get that toe tilt. Now he actually does come with a pair of interchangeable hands, so you can see we essentially get two fisted hands. No idea as to why they didn't include the umbrella with this figure. We'll no doubt see a variant released sometime in the future, but I really do just wish they could have packaged in the umbrella instead of those additional hands. So with all that being said, I believe that just about wraps up my review here for some of these DC Multiverse McFarlane toys, the Batman figures. Overall, I think each and every one of these looks fantastic. For a retail price point of $19.99, I think they're excellent. Definitely probably some of the best action figures that are currently out there on the market. In terms of comparing them to the likes of Marvel Legends, I think these guys absolutely knock it out of the park. The sculpt, the paint, the articulation, the value for money, and considering they are in fact in the 7-inch range and not the 6-inch range, I definitely think you're getting your bang for your buck. If I had to pick two figures of which I think are the best out of the wave, it would definitely be the Batman and the Riddler. I think the sculpt, as well as just the overall presence they have, is so awesome. Catwoman's pretty cool once again. I don't think her design is all that interesting. Maybe the unmasked version would look slightly better. And the Penguin once again is also really cool, but he's more of a static piece than of course a fully articulated one like we're seeing with Riddler and of course the Batman. I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comment section below on what you guys think of not only these McFarlane Toys figures, but of course the upcoming Batman movie. Are you guys as excited as I am? Please feel free to let me know down in the comment section below on what you guys thought of the review and whether or not you would like me to continue reviewing some of the merch coming out for the Batman movie. I thank you guys all so much for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.